In a panic, Adeola grabbed the box and the bracelet and ran out of her apartment, running through the streets of Abuja, searching for the market, for the woman, for anything that could save her. But the city was dark and empty, and no one answered her desperate cries for help. As she reached the abandoned church in Garki, she collapsed, the bracelet burning hot against her skin. How it all started. Abuja, a city of dreams, a place where people from all corners of Nigeria come to hustle and make something of themselves. In the middle of this busy city was a young woman named Adeola, who had made a name for herself as a businesswoman. From running a successful fashion boutique in Rose 2 to having a big restaurant in the middle of the market, Adeola had her hands in several profitable businesses. But despite her achievements, something inside her wanted more and more. One hot evening, as the sun was scorching, Adeola sat in her car, stuck in the usual traffic. She flipped through radio stations absent-mindedly until she stumbled upon an old folklore program. The voice on the radio was deep and threatening, talking about tales of a mysterious market that appeared only at midnight.
Them say, if you see am, na only your spirit fit guide you.
The voice warned.
The midnight markets, na there them they sell things wey no be for ordinary eye. But no be every eye go see am. If you hear, you go know.
Adeola chuckled at the story, shaking her head. These old tales, Seth, she muttered, but deep down her curiosity had been provoked. Hey viewer, have you ever heard tales or stories of the night market? Kindly let me know what you have heard in the comment section. Later that night, as she lay in bed, the thought of the midnight market kept on ringing in her head. Would it be real? And if it was, what kind of things would they sell there? Unable to shake off the interest in the night market, Adeola decided she would find out for herself. After all, what harm could there be in a little adventure? Midnight found Adeola driving through the quiet streets of Abuja. The city, usually filled with life, was unusually still, as if it were holding its breath. She had no idea where to go, only the rough memory of the radio story guiding her. As she drove past an old, abandoned church in Garki, her headlights flickered and she caught sight of a narrow path that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The path was flanked by tall, crumbling buildings, their windows dark and hollow like the eyes of a long-forgotten spirit. Before we dive in properly, if you are enjoying this story, please consider sharing the story and subscribing to my channel for more amazing and beautiful tales from the heart of Africa. With a racing heart, Adeola parked her car and made her way into the passage. The air was thick with a strange, earthy scent, and the distant sound of drums echoed faintly. As she walked deeper into the passage, she noticed a soft glow up ahead. She rounded a corner and there it was. A busy market, alive with activity. The market was strange, tables lined up with goods she had never seen before, herbs that seemed to shimmer, fabrics that changed color with the light, and artifacts that vibrate with an ancient energy. There were a lot of curious vendors, some old and wrinkled, others young and almost shadowy, all with eyes that seemed to see right through her. Adeola moved through the market in an astonishment, her senses overwhelmed. It was as if the market was alive, calling out to her, pulling her towards something she couldn't quite see. Her footsteps faltered as she ventured further, unsure of what lay ahead. The stalls around her were no longer filled with the things she had first seen. Instead, she found herself in a part of the market that seemed older, more strange. A tall, thin man with skin color of deep ebony stood behind one of the stalls, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. His long fingers, tipped with sharp nails, carefully arranged pieces of raw meat on a wooden slab. The meat was unlike anything Adeola had ever seen. Some pieces were bright red, while others dark purple, as if they had been harvested from creatures not of this world. The man's smile was disturbing, revealing sharp, yellow teeth.
"Welcome, young lady,"
he said in a voice that was both smooth and chilling.
"Care for a taste of something different?"
Adeola recoiled slightly, but couldn't tear her eyes away from the strange meat. Beside the man's stall was another, a hunchback woman with a face covered in deep wrinkles. She was selling what appeared to be jars filled with organs, eyes that floated in a thick, murky liquid, and hearts that still seemed to beat faintly, as if they were alive. The woman laughed loudly when she noticed Adeola's horrified expression. "Ah, the heart of a river spirit," she said, tapping one of the jars. "Just one taste and you'll have the strength of 100 men. But beware, for the spirit may come for you if it isn't treated with respect." Adeola's heart pounded in her chest as she looked around at the strange people. Their faces twisted in odd smiles as they watched her every move. When she walked deeper into the market, she saw some people walking on their heads, hands, and even selling with their legs. Some of them turned themselves into different types of animals. And anytime she moves forward and tried looking back, she found no one there, even though she had bypassed many strange people. This made Adeola very scared. Adeola went round and round the market, drawn to a table where an elderly woman sat, her eyes sharp and knowing. The woman didn't speak but used body language for Adeola to come closer. On the table in front of her was a small, complex carved box.
"Now this one they call you,"
the woman said in a voice that was both soft and commanding. Adeola reached out to touch the box, but the woman grabbed her hand, her grip surprisingly strong.
"You know if you take them like that, these boss get power way past ordinary eye. If you take them, you go carry the consequence."
Without fully understanding what she was getting into, Adeola nodded. She couldn't explain it, but she felt a connection to the box, as if it held the answer to something she had been searching for all her life. The woman released her grip and smiled, a smile that didn't quite reach her eye.
"You don't choose, my Peking. No look back."
Adeola handed over a huge sum of cash, but the woman shook her head.
"No be money I go collect. The price go soon show."
Adeola walked away with the box clutched tightly in her hands. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had just crossed a line she could never uncross. Back in her apartment, Adeola placed the box on her dining table and stared at it for what felt like hours. The carving seemed to move and shift under the dim light, and the air around it felt charged, almost electric. Finally, she couldn't resist any longer and she opened it. Inside the box was a single delicate bracelet made of gold and tiny, glittering stones. It was beautiful, but there was something unsettling about it. She reached out to touch it, and as soon as her fingers brushed through the bracelet, she felt a shocker rush of energy that passed through her, filling her with a sense of power and invincibility. Over the next few days, everything in Adeola's life seemed to take a turn for the better. Her businesses flourished like never before. Opportunities came knocking at her door, and she found herself the center of attention at every event she attended. It was as if the bracelet was bringing her unimaginable luck. But with the luck came something else. At night, Adeola began to have strange dreams. Visions of dark, shadowy figures, their faces covered, whispering in a language she didn't understand. They spoke of ancient debts, of power, and of a price that must be paid. The dreams left her restless, and she started to feel uncomfortable, a sense that something was watching her. She tried to ignore it, but the shadows followed her even in the daylight. People around her began to act strangely, avoiding her or looking at her with fear in their eyes. And then she started seeing them. I mean the spirits. They were everywhere, hiding in the corners of her vision, just out of sight. At first they were just faint shapes, but as the days passed, they became more solid, more real. And they were angry. Adeola's once happy life began to separate out. Her business deals, which had seemed so promising, started falling apart for no reasons. Her friends and associates distanced themselves, and she found herself alone with only the bracelet and the spirits for company. Desperate, she tried to remove the bracelet, but it wouldn't move. It seemed to have been fused with her skin and started glowing. The visions and dreams became more intense, more terrifying, as the spirits began to speak directly to her.
You don't cross the line.
And they whispered, their voices echoing in her mind.
The power you seek, no be for human hand. The price, you go pay her with your life.
Terrified, Adeola went to look for the old woman from the market, hoping to undo what had been done. But when she returned to the path to the market was gone. The narrow path she had walked that night was now just an ordinary path, empty and silent. She searched for days, asking around, but no one had heard of the midnight market. It was as if it had never existed. The spirits became relentless and haunted her every step, their voices growing louder and louder. She knew she was running out of time. The power the bracelet had given her was slipping away, leaving her weak and vulnerable. One night, as she was laying in bed, unable to sleep, the spirits appeared in full force. They surrounded her, their eyes glowing with an unearthly light, their hands reaching out towards her. She could feel their anger, their pain, and she knew that they were there to collect. They hissed. In a panic, Adeola grabbed the box and the bracelet and ran out of her apartment, running through the streets of Abuja, searching for the market, for the woman, for anything that could save her. But the city was dark and empty, and no one answered her desperate cries for help. As she reached the abandoned church in Garki, she collapsed, the bracelet burning hot against her skin. The spirits closed in and she felt herself slipping away, her energy draining as the bracelet glowed brighter and brighter. With a final burst of strength, she ripped the bracelet off and threw it into the box. The spirits let out a very loud cry of pain, and the world around her went dark. When Adeola woke up, she found herself lying on the ground outside the church, the first rays of dawn breaking over her. The box and the bracelet were gone and the air felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. But Adeola knew that she was forever changed. She returned to her life, but nothing was the same. The businesses she had built with the help of the bracelet crumbled, leaving her with nothing but her memories and the scars on her wrist where the bracelet had been. The spirits no longer haunted her, but the whispers of the midnight market was in the back of her mind, a constant reminder of the price of greed. Adeola eventually left Abuja and moved to a small town where no one knew her name or her story. She lived a quiet life, avoiding anything that reminded her of the market or the power it had offered. But every now and then, when the moon was full and the night was still, Adeola would catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of her eye. A flicker of light, a shadow that moved too quickly. She would pause, her heart racing, half expecting to see the familiar glow of the midnight market. But when she turned to look, there was nothing there, only the quiet darkness of the night. The memories of that fateful encounter stayed with her, a constant reminder of the thin line between the world of the living and the realms beyond. She had learned her lesson the hard way. Some doors should never be opened, and some bargains should never be made. As the years passed, the story of Adeola and the midnight market became a cautionary tale among the people of Abuja, told in hushed tones and with knowing glances. It was said that the market still appeared from time to time, luring in the curious and the greedy with promises of power and fortune. But those who dared to enter rarely returned, and those who did were never the same. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this story. I would like to know the country you are watching from. Please write the name of your country in the comments section.